Hi everyone, my name is Jaymike, and I'd like to welcome you to another tutorial, but this time video editing tutorial. This is going to be my first ever video editing tutorial, and I hope that we learn something from it. So let's get right into it. So I'm going to be using Adobe Premiere Pro 2015, and when you launch the software, this is the first thing you're going to see. So you can click project right here to open a brand new project. So let's name it tutorial. Okay, so yes, so if you guys don't mind, I will be using a PowerPoint. I taught this tutorial at the Mount Zion Film Academy, and I'm going to be using the same PowerPoint for this tutorial if you don't mind. So I'll show you guys the tutorial first of all. So the first thing is let's go to page 1, introduction to video editing. We're going to skip who a film editor is. A film editor arranges film footage into the final narrating order, blah 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 blah, but let's go right into the editing itself. So first of all, let's talk about the right specs of laptops to use. Getting the right computer depends on your budget. From 100k and above, there is a laptop grade for every price point, so it depends on how much you have, but it's recommended that it is 100k and above, because that's where you get things with good specs, from Core i3 to Core i5 to Core i7. There's a Core i9 now. Let's get to the next page, you see what we mean. So now for the RAMs, we have 4 gigabytes of RAM, 6 gigs of RAM, 8 gigabytes of RAM, 16 gigs. For the core, we have Core i3, 5 or 9. For the processor, 1.8, 2.0, 2.2, etc. My laptop right now is a Core i5, 8 gigabytes of RAM, and a 2.5 to 2.7 gigahertz. That is it's okay for a beginner and for an average user, but if you want to go professional, like you want to do the heavy stuff, then you need something higher than that. But because I've been able to make the best use of the laptop I have, of the specs that I have here, you know, cut your coat according to your size. I believe God provides something better soon. Anyway, moving on. So now the next stage is the interface. This is where a lot of people see gibberish. When they see the interface, it gets a little bit confusing, but I will make sure I simplify it as to the best of my abilities. I'll make sure I simplify it to the best of my abilities. I usually tell people that editing is not hard. A lot of people like to blow it up and say, oh, it's a complex software, it's this, it's that. It's not hard. The only thing that gets complex in editing is when you want to do complex work, like you want to do something that is not just the basic editing. Editing is basically just cutting and joining. When you want to now go into special effects, that's where it gets complex. So the interface, I tell people, if you can cook, you can edit. Now the interface, this is the interface, just like we have seen in our own workstation. Let me remove this for now. Now when you open yours, it might not look exactly like this. Don't get worried. You might see something more like this, something like this. You know, it's very simple. It's just about your interface setting. You can rearrange it according to how you want it. I can move this one to anywhere I want, but right now I think it's fine the way I like it. But I have my own default, I have my own customized setting, which is my editing space, which is like this. It's not so different. Now in the PowerPoint, page 7, I kind of did something like this. This looks a little bit confusing, but I'm going to explain it. This is what it means. I want us to imagine that our interface is like a kitchen, just like when you want to cook. When you're cooking, the first thing you do is to get your ingredients, right? Now let's assume you take your ingredients from the shelf. Let's look at this PowerPoint. This is the shelf right here. Now this right here is this right here. This is your project panel. This project panel is where all your content, all your ingredients are going to be housed. Let's say we want to cook porridge, for example. So your yam, your onions, your palm oil. What else again do we use to cook porridge? Let's assume it's plantain and yam porridge. So your plantain, everything is going to be housed here. So in the editing sense, all your videos, your audio, your pictures, everything would be here. Now right now it's empty. If I want to import anything here, all I have to do is double click this, and then to take me to the Windows panel so I can navigate to wherever the videos are. Let's go to my videos, assuming that's where the footage is, and let's say I want to edit, let's look for something here. Let's say Dara speed tutorial, no, dress code blooper. Which one do we have here? Okay, let's just take anyone we have. Let's just take Abejoye teaser, for example, and we click open. This is open right now. If you want to import an entire folder at once, you could just click on the folder one, and then you click import folder. But we're not importing the entire folder. We want to import just one file. So Abejoye teaser, right? Or let's even go to something more raw. Let me go to desktop. Let me go to the Abejoye file that we're editing presently. Where is it? Abejoye, let's say day 1. And let's go to this right here, this one, and then we click open, and then we're going to see it right here. You see? Now assuming we want to open a picture, we want to put a picture. So your Windows panel is going to be your market, where you are bringing everything into your project panel, that is your shelf. Therefore you can write it down. Project panel equals shelf. Shelf houses all the content. So I'm breaking it down for us now. So if I open it again, I want to import a picture. I double click again, go to pictures. Let's say I want to import this picture right here, and I click open, and boom, it appears here. Now we want to also import a song. Double click again. Let's go to music. Let's say Fred Hammond. This is all open. See? So now we have 3 things. We have a video and audio, and so any other thing you might want to import, that you want to edit, that you want to cut, you bring it here. That's for the shelf. The next place we're going to talk about is this place right here, the source monitor. Now this source monitor, I usually call it the chopping board. What it means is that anything you have here, you know, you have a video right now, you cannot just, assuming it's not the entire video we want to use, assuming you put an entire movie here and all you need is just one portion of that movie, you cut it in your source monitor before you cook it. Just like if you pick a tuber of yam here, we don't just drop the yam into the pot straight away, do we? No, we cut it first. The ones we don't need, which is the body, or what do you call it? The peel, when you peel out the outer layer of the yam, you don't need that. So you put the yam aside, the outer layer aside, and the fresh yam you drop in the pot. So this is where you do all that. This is your chopping board. So your source monitor equals your chopping board. Let me see if I have written it out here. So the source monitor, which is it, this is where you decide the in points and the out points of your clip. I'll explain that in a bit. Where the video starts and end, I call this the chopping board. Now let's go back to this. Now assuming this is the video we want to work on, this one right here, this is where you're going to see the area you want to cut, and the areas you want to cut. That is the in point, that's the beginning and the end. So if I double click this right now, double click, it automatically comes here, right? And now if I push play, so we don't want to do this area. You see, rolling, stop. So I want it from here. So what do? This is the area I want from this beginning. I click this place right here, mark. So you see that I highlighted every other thing. Now I only want it all the way to, let's say, here, before mom stands up. Just let's assume it's just here, right? Then I click this mark out. So you see it has highlighted this area. Now this is what we want. So this is probably the back of the yam. This area is at the back of the yam. This highlighted place is the fresh yam that we want, right? So you can now pick this and drop it in your pot, which is your timeline. I will explain that in a bit. I hope we are getting it so far. Don't forget, if you have any questions, you can comment. You can just comment in the section. You can put your questions in the comment section and I'll be sure to answer. Let's move on. So that is the source monitor, right? That's the source monitor. Now let's come down to the next part, which is the timeline. Now the timeline is empty right now because there hasn't been any work done here. This timeline is our pot. Let me show you. This is your pot of stew. All this you see right here, this block right here is our pot. So anything that we put here from the market, any item we take here and we've chopped it here, we can drop it in our pot. If you want to, you can pick your yam from here and drop it straight. That's how you want to cook your food. It's fine by me. You can decide to be cutting it in the pot too. It's up to you. This software is a very dynamic, flexible software. Moving on. So assuming this is what we want, I want to drop it in the pot. So I click on any of this space right now. You see, I click on anything here, right? If I click this, it's only going to drag the video alone. If I click this and drag, it will only drag audio. If I click this and drag, it will only drag video. But I want to do two of them, so I click the space right here. So I click and drag, and once I release my finger, it drops on the timeline. Boom. Are we getting it so far? Now I'm going to explain what the timeline is. The timeline is your pot of soup, your big giant pot that houses everything, your effects, your footage, your captions, everything. So everything you see on your timeline, just imagine it like you are watching a movie on VLC or whatever. You can see that this is, when you press play, this moves. Can you see it? Can we see this? This moves. As I'm scrubbing through, it moves. Let me expand this one so you can see. Now your timeline is divided into two major parts, which is the video. Up here is the video, and you can see the demarcation line. This is the demarcation line right here, this line. So below is your audio, above is your video, below is your audio. So if you drop anything on your timeline, you see the audio under it. You see the audio is really low right now. These white things you're seeing right now, these are the sound waves. If you can imagine all these these are those decks that used to have sound waves that move up and down. These are the sound waves, so you can know what is loud and what is not loud. The details of this timeline I will give in subsequent tutorials, but right now, we're talking about the introduction to the editing software, so we're not going to go into too many details so you don't get all confused. We're getting into the details later. So like I said, this is your timeline. Now this is your pot of soup. Now this, you're wondering that this looks just like this, that what is the difference between this and this? This is your programs panel. I just call this your monitor, but it's formally called your programs panel. This monitor represents your eyes and your tongue. Let me show you. Can we see the eyes and the tongue? This project panel right here only shows what your timeline is. Whatever you've arranged on your timeline, this is how this is what it shows. So whatever is happening here, you are seeing it up here. For example, if I push play, whatever this cursor swipes by, you see as it's passing by, it is playing right here, just like when you're watching VLC. Everything that is scrubbing past is showing on the big monitor, right? That is just how this is right here. You need this because without this, you cannot know what you are editing. You are practically blind if you don't have this. This is like your eyes right now. So in the kitchen sense, when you're cooking, you are seeing what you are cooking, right? You are seeing the pot, you are tasting it. This right here is where you taste and is where you see. So for example, if I put the picture, this picture right now, with this Abejoye picture, if I double click it now, you will see it right here. If I take this picture, I can drag from here anyway, and I drop it on top of this one right here. Don't forget where this is audio. You cannot drop it under here because this is audio. This is the audio space. This is the video space. So now I take this picture and I drop it up here. Now you can see where I dropped it, right? If I press play, which is my space bar, by the time it gets to where the picture is, the picture will appear. Now it's even oversized. Sorry, it's really large. It's larger than the frame size. What you can do here is just to right click scale to frame size, and it will shrink it into the actual size of your composition. That's aside. Now you see, you see that? Can you see that? As I'm scrubbing this cursor through it, it's appearing. Now take notes, any image, now you can see this block, any block you put on top of a block, it overlays on that block. That is to say, if this is here, if this is not there, you don't see anything. If you put this block on top of it, it shows on top of whatever it is under. I really hope that makes sense, but that is even further details. We are still talking about the surface introduction now, so let's leave that aside for now. If I put this picture directly beside it like this, what you have is, I press play, it finishes there, bam, to the next one. I hope I am making sense. So I've explained two things now. I've explained your timeline and I've explained your program's monitor. This is just like a regular monitor. All it does is show what is on your timeline. This is how you make one invisible and non-invisible and whatnot. Just let's not bother ourselves about all this for now. The next thing we'll talk about is this, your tools panel. Now in the kitchen, it is what? In the kitchen, it is your knife, your spoon, you know, your fork, everything. That is what this panel right here is for. Now I'm only going to talk about 3 basic tools because I don't want to confuse everybody. We only have 3. In fact, when you're editing, 90% of the time you're only using 1 tool. The remaining 10% of the time you're using another tool. So don't bother yourself about all this that you're looking at. 90% of the time, this is what you're looking. This is what you're going to be using, your selection tool. By default, it starts from your selection tool. So your selection tool is basically your hand. What you use to pick something, drop something, pick again, drop, pick, shift. You know, if this image wants to be stretched, you can stretch it out. If it wants to be stretched this way, you can stretch it out. You know, you can stretch. That is what. Let me undo all this. That is what your selection tool is for. Selection tool, let us not forget. Now selection tool are your hands. The next most important tool, in fact they're just 2 basic tools, 2 very important tools. Yeah, the next most important tool is your razor tool. Your razor tool is your knife. So if you have an image, if you have something you want to cut, you cannot cut with the selection tool, you can only cut with your razor tool. This is what the razor tool looks like. You see, now if I put this razor tool anywhere and I slice, I've divided this image, this video into 2. So now if I go back to my selection tool, I can separate. Can you see that? Now let's assume I want to put this picture in between them, and then I close it up. So what we have now, let me press play. What we have now is this. So boom, back to the picture, and then once the picture is done showing, it will continue the video. I hope that makes sense. Don't worry, if you watch this video a couple of times, you would begin to grasp what I'm saying. But I really hope that I'm making sense right now. The last thing we're going to talk about, the last panel in this entire interface, is your effects panel. Now your effects panel is different from your project panel, but it is similar. It is similar because it also houses something. It holds up content of some things, but not footage or video content, but effects. It holds the effects. Now what kind of effects? In the kitchen sense, it holds your spices, salt, Maggi, seasoning, thyme, curry, everything. Your seasoning. When you're cooking, you need to add some spice into it. You know, you can't just cook like that. If you cook like that, that's fine, but to make it nicer, you add effects. So this is it right here. Now let's go back to this. You can see we have audio effects, audio transitions, video effects, video transition. Let me explain. Starting from the audio effect, let's open the folder. Boom. You can see analog, delay, balance, blah blah blah. You don't need to bother yourself too much about all this. The most important ones we use is let's say in subsequent tutorials I will show you guys how to use some of the most important effects for filmmaking, like phone call effects. You know, when you're hearing the voice at the other end of the phone and it's sounding, yeah, I'm good, how's everything? Yeah, everything, all right. That sound we usually use the high pass filter for that. So you just click this high pass, drag and drop on your audio block. Don't drop it on video, it's not going to work. You can only drop it on audio. All right, now that's that about the audio effects. Let's close it. Now we have the audio transition. Transition is when there are two audio blocks together, you want to give a transition to them. You don't just want it to cut. You don't want it to cut and start that one. You want it to like fade into each other or blend into each other. You use this audio transition. So crossfade. If I open up crossfade, you will see the three major effect: constant gain, constant power, exponential fade. I don't care how these three works, but they all sound similar in my ears. But I use, most of the time I use my constant gain. That is, if I don't want a sharp cut. Let me give an example. Let's say I take Jesus is all and I cut a portion of it from here to here, and now see I'm clicking my audio, drag audio only. I click and I drag and drop it right here, and now if I press play, it's going to be sharp. Listen, do you see that as a sharp cut? I'll play it again. But we want it to fade into the next audio. So what do? I click. Now, audio transition is used for in between two blocks. That is in between. Let me expand this. You can expand this by either dragging this or by clicking the plus and minus on your keyboard. So I'm expanding this now. Now look at these two. We want to blend them together. So we click the constant gain right here, drag. You see it has highlighted. So we drop. So right now if I play it, this is what you hear. You see there's a smooth exit now. It's no more sharp. Undo. If I undo this now, you hear it again. Let's put it there. So it's almost like a sellotape. Do you hear that? That's what I use it for most of the time. So let me delete. You can even expand this if you want by clicking it and expanding however way you want it. So okay, moving on. So that's this. That's now video effects. Boom. We have the adjust, blur and sharpen, channel, color correction. This is where we do all the color correction. Now if assuming I want this image itself to be, let's say, bluish, don't let me get into that. That's the second level of tutorial. That will be my next tutorial. But anyway, these are the effects. Color correction. Let's open up color correction so you can see brightness and contrast, change color, color balance. Don't bother yourself too much about this. That will be in our next tutorial. See, I've dragged this and I've dropped it on this image. Now if I go to my effects control, I go to brightness, I can twink it, see how bright it is, how dark it is. Can you see that? That's by altering this number. We'll go to that in the next tutorial. Let's leave that for now so I don't confuse you guys. Okay, now that's for color, that's for video effects. Now video transition is just like the when you want to transit two videos, you want to blend two videos together, but how do you want to blend them? The most common ones we use are in dissolve folder, which is the additive dissolve, cross dissolve, deep to black, deep to white. Let me show you how it looks like. Now I want this one to blend into this one, but more like going into black and then going into the next image. So how do you do that? Click this one and drag into the center. Can you see? Into the center of the two footage, and then if I click this, fade in, open. Can you see that? It's different from a sharp cut. You see that? It's same thing with deep to white. Let's do deep to white. This one is nice for flashbacks. See that? Film dissolve, morph cuts, you know. So these are the basic ones we use. In the next tutorial, I'll tell you the basic ones that we use for filmmaking, so you don't start dabbling into some things and get yourself confused. Basically, cross dissolve, deep to black, deep to white. Now, video transition. Yeah, we just talked about that. So this is the basic of video editing, right? If you want to, let's assume I want to put, let me delete all these ones. Assuming I want to lay this image, and then I want to put the music to be playing under it, to be playing in the background. I don't want the music playing in the foreground but in the background. So I want mom to still be talking but music playing under it, you know. This is my specialty, background music and sound effects. So yeah, anyway, let's move on. So let's assume this music is to be playing while mother is talking. There are two ways you can increase the audio. This audio right now is just too low, so let's right click, audio gain. You see, I just came by how many decibels? So let's assume like 8 decibels. Boom. You see, that's risen up a bit, but it's not good enough. Let's do it some more. Audio gain. Increase, 17, 18, 19. Yeah, so yeah, something like this. Something like this. Can you see that? So let's assume we want music playing while she's talking. So let's come to the beginning of the music, and from here, starting point, from here to here, ending point. So I drag this under. Don't drag it on top. If you drag anything on top of anything on Adobe Premiere Pro, it will automatically delete whatever is under. It does not care who you are. So don't make a mistake of saying, oh, I want the two sounds playing together, I'll put them together like this. If you do this, let's assume I drop this here. Boom. By the time I take this one away, the original audio is gone. It's gone. So now we need to put this back here, right here. See that? So now it's even gone. So let me undo. So you put it under. Let me move this a little bit so you can see. Okay, you see that? So right now it's too loud. So we have to reduce the song. Right click, audio gain, bring it down. Boom. There are also faster ways you can increase or reduce audio, but I don't use it often. That is this. You can see a line right here in between these blocks. If you shift this line upward, you see it's higher. If you reduce it, it's lower. This one too, if I increase it, it's higher. If I reduce it, it's lower, but it's not as effective as audio gain. So check this out. It's louder. If I bring this down, it's low, but the song is now audible. So that's basically that. So assuming we want another footage, let me right click and let me double click here, drop in another thing from videos, for example. Let's say which one? Okay, let's have a J teaser, for example. And then I drop it on the timeline. Can you see that? Time I play this one, it continues. Can you see? That's just basically editing. You see that editing is simple. So assuming you have like several footages and then you want to be cutting and joining, so you can go back to your blade, your razor tool, cut, go to your pen tool, delete, bring this one, close it up. Oh sorry, that was too much. Close it up. It's very simple. Before you know it, you've edited. Let me see if there's anything else I didn't touch in the introduction. The source monitor, the project panel, the timeline, the project, blah blah blah, audio meter, effects. Oh yeah, I did talk about the audio meter. That's straightforward. This is the audio meter, in case you're wondering. Whatever you play here, the audio meter reads it here. So if your music is if your audio is too loud, for example, if I audio gain this now to a very high point and I'm playing, this is a distorted image. You see it picking red. This is bad. It's very bad. It's wrong. Your sound mustn't be picking too much above this area. If it is also in this area, it is too low. So I hope with this few points of mine, I've been able to convince you that editing isn't hard. Oh, by the way, if you want to export anything that you have edited, let me expand this for you. Assuming this is everything you've done and you want to export it into a video that you can watch outside the software, you come to this point right here, right? And then you press 0. Sorry, O. There's I and O. Just like you do to your source monitor, you can also do it to your final work, because you need to highlight the area you want to export, right? So come to the beginning, you press I. Come to the end of what you want to export and you press O. Now it has highlighted the area. So this area is what it's going to export. So by the time you press, let me do shortcut here. File. Where is it again? Export media. You see the shortcode is Ctrl M. So I don't go through this long process. File, export media, aka Ctrl M. And then to bring up the next thing, Ctrl M. So it brings this up, right? Very simple. Output name, these are the things you can touch, the name you want to save it as. So click this to open. So put it wherever it is you want to save. If you want to save it on your desktop page, you can now save it as tutorial or whatever. Save. You can increase this to 100. I usually use MPEG 2, right? I save mine as MPEG 2. You can experiment other things, but this is what I use. If you're not sure of the formats to use, just click match sequence settings, and the software will give you a setting that it feels is the best. But I use MPEG 2, and then you click export, and then export to wherever you allow it to export to. Let me see if there's any other thing left to talk about. I've talked about this. I've talked about this. Okay, I think that's basically it. So zooming in and zooming out here, up and down arrow keys. Let's see that. Let's cancel. So zooming in and zooming out, don't forget, is the plus and minus. You press to zoom in, minus to zoom out. If you have any questions, like I said, please put in the comment section and I'll be sure to explain. And if the comments are frequent, I'll probably do another tutorial about that. But my next tutorial is going to be about more specific things, how to synchronize sound, how to apply effects, and so on and so forth. So I'm looking forward to that. But for now, I hope you've learned something about Adobe Premiere Pro, and you've seen that it's not as tough as people say it is. Once again, my name is Jaymike, and I'll see you in the next video tutorial. Don't forget to subscribe by clicking on the subscription button below, and click like if you like my video, because it helps a lot. Thank you very much.